What happens when a Hollywood icon, already under the glare of headlines and rumors, walks straight into the lion's den of daytime television and confronts a host who refuses to hold back? Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to Stage View, smash that like button, and drop a comment. It helps this story reach more people who crave these dramatic, cinematic breakdowns. The studio lights of The View burned brighter than usual that morning, a pale golden wash gliding over the polished table, the cameras, the silent audience waiting in that electrically charged stillness. Producers rushed back and forth with earpieces pressed tight, whispering updates about timing, questions, tone. Something was different today. Even the floor manager, usually all confidence, kept glancing at the cue cards with a nervous tap in his fingers. Ben Affleck was backstage. Not the carefully smiling, PR-managed Ben Affleck familiar from late-night interviews. This was the Ben who had been followed by tabloids for weeks. Rumors of marital tension, studio conflicts, emotional exhaustion. It all swirled around him like a storm he couldn't outrun. Every camera lens became an accusation. Every headline a hammer. And now he was about to sit across from Sunny Hostin. Sunny was known for her intelligence, her sharp instincts, and a directness that could slice through even the most carefully rehearsed celebrity facade. When she leaned forward and raised her eyebrow, the truth didn't just come out, it spilled. Producers weren't certain how the two would mix. Some whispered that it would be civil. Others murmured the opposite. But Sunny, quietly, calmly, held her cue cards like a deck of truths waiting to be dealt, one at a time. Ben stood in the hallway, hands tucked into the pockets of a black jacket, shoulders tense but face resolved. He had come here with an intention, something deeper than a press junket. He wasn't here to dodge. Not today. A stage assistant approached him, forcing a professionally soft smile. "Mr. Affleck, we're ready for you." He nodded, briefly closing his eyes as though bracing for impact. Then he walked slow, steady steps toward the curtain. The audience clapped as he emerged, but the applause felt uneven, uncertain. Some were excited. Some whispered. Some had already formed opinions. He took his seat at the long, curved table. Sunny Hostin greeted him with a measured smile. "Ben, welcome back." "Thanks," he said, voice even but low. Joy, Whoopi, and Sarah exchanged glances, sensing the static in the atmosphere. Conversations around this table could go many ways. Today, something in the air said it would tilt toward the unpredictable. Joy began lightly. "Ben, you've had a busy few months, movies, press, family life, the usual Hollywood whirlwind." The audience chuckled politely. Ben nodded. "Yeah, it's been a lot." But Sunny didn't wait long. She leaned in, fingers interlaced, her tone soft but razor-focused. "You've said publicly that the media misrepresents your personal life. But some would argue that public behavior shapes public perception. So I want to ask, do you feel you've contributed to the narratives about you? Or are you saying it's entirely fabricated?" The air thinned. Joy blinked. Sarah's lips parted. Even Whoopi raised her head slightly, as if sensing a spark. Ben's jaw flexed. He wasn't caught off guard. He had expected this. But expectation didn't make the question any lighter. "I think," he said slowly, "that people see what they want to see. And some outlets feed that. They invent things. They exaggerate. And yeah, sometimes they twist everything to make it look worse." Sunny didn't blink. "But you're not saying you've never made choices that led to those stories?" The first ripple of tension threaded through the room. Ben exhaled through his nose, the kind of breath held too long. "I've made mistakes. Everyone has. But the idea that I'm this walking disaster? That's a story someone else wrote, not me." The audience murmured. Sunny nodded once, acknowledging his response, but she wasn't done. "Ben, when you're in public, when you're photographed looking frustrated or upset, it becomes a conversation. A story. People interpret it. Do you feel any responsibility to manage how you present yourself, given the attention you know you receive?" Ben stared at her, and something flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Not yet, but a spark of something bruised. "I'm a human being," he said, voice tightening. "I have bad days. I get tired. I get overwhelmed. But I'm not going to fake a smile every time a stranger with a camera decides to ambush me on a sidewalk. I can't live like that." Sunny tilted her head. "But being a public figure." "Yes," he cut in softly but firmly. "Being a public figure doesn't mean I owe emotional performance to the world every minute of the day." The room went silent. The kind of silence that swallows sound, stretches it tight, and waits for the next fracture. Joy looked between them. "Okay, let's." But Sunny raised a gentle hand. I'm not attacking you, Ben. You know that. I'm asking what the public wants to understand. And I'm giving you the truth, he replied, leaning forward now. People act like celebrities are machines, like we're built for consumption. Every moment, every expression up for interpretation. That's not fair. Sunny held his gaze, her voice leveled with calm. People care about you. They care about your work. They're invested in your life because you're relatable. But when they see repeated moments of frustration, it raises concern. Ben's eyes narrowed, not with hostility, but with the weight of everything unsaid. You think I don't know that? He asked quietly. You think I don't care? His tone was low, but the emotional tremor beneath it was unmistakable. The audience shifted, feeling the pull between defensiveness and vulnerability. Sunny softened, just slightly, then helped people understand. He looked down, hands tightening in his lap. And for a beat, Ben Affleck, the movie star, the headline, the meme, looked like a man trying to gather pieces of himself before they scattered under bright lights. When you're constantly watched, he said, you stop knowing how to act naturally. Every move becomes a calculation. Every glance becomes evidence. And after a while, it gets to you. It gets under your skin. You start wondering if the world wants you to fail just so they have something to talk about. A long silence settled. Even Sunny's expression shifted towards something almost empathetic, but only almost. So when people criticize you, she said, you feel it personally. His eyes snapped up. Of course I do. I'm not made of stone. Then, abruptly, he let out a short, humorless laugh. But the funny thing is, if I show I'm affected, the headlines say I'm breaking down. And if I pretend I'm not, they say I'm cold. Sunny opened her mouth to respond, but didn't get the chance. Ben leaned back, his tone thickening with irritation creeping into the edges. So you tell me, Sunny, what am I supposed to do? What's the right answer? The audience sucked in a breath. Whoopi murmured, oh boy. Sunny didn't flinch. I'm not here to tell you how to live. I'm here to ask questions people want answers to. And I'm telling you, Ben said, leaning forward again, that sometimes the questions are the problem. That landed hard. Joy shifted in her seat. Sarah pressed her lips together. The audience exchanged glances, some wide-eyed, some whispering. Sunny kept her voice steady. Are you saying journalists shouldn't ask tough questions? I'm saying, Ben answered, that sometimes journalists act like they're doing a service when really they're feeding a cycle that hurts people. And are you including me in that? She asked. The room froze. Ben didn't blink. You asked me a question that assumed I was responsible for the public's negative perception of me. So you tell me. The air vibrated. Sunny inhaled sharply, just a flicker, but her professional composure held. I asked because perception matters, she said calmly. Especially when someone in your position has fans, supporters, and kids who look up to them. Ben stared at her for a long, heavy moment. Then he spoke, voice low but laced with a sharp edge. You're not asking because you care. You're asking because controversy gets views. Gasps. Real, audible gasps from the audience. Joy's mouth dropped. Sarah pressed her hand to her chest. Whoopi leaned back like she'd just watched someone tip a glass of wine onto white carpet. Sunny's jaw tensed, but she didn't look away. That's unfair, she whispered. Is it? Ben shot back. The tension erupted into 1,000 silent shocks threading through the studio. Ben exhaled shakily, as though something inside him had finally cracked open. You want honesty? He said. Fine. I'm tired, Sunny. I'm tired of being picked apart. I'm tired of being treated like a spectacle instead of a person. And I walked in here thinking maybe, just maybe, you'd understand that. Sunny placed her cards on the table, her voice now softer than at any point in the interview. Ben, I hear you. But sometimes the only way to break a narrative is to talk directly about it. That's what this show does. That's what I do. He closed his eyes, breathing in slowly. And then, a producer's voice erupted from the control booth, shouting something about time cues, commercial breaks, and keep it going. This is huge. But on the studio floor, the moment had already taken on a life of its own. A confrontation, a confession, an emotional collision that neither of them seemed able, or willing, to walk away from. And it was only the beginning. The commercial break light flashed red overhead, washing the stage in a warning glow. 3 minutes to breathe, 3 minutes to recalibrate, 3 minutes for someone to decide whether this interview should continue or be quietly steered back into safe territory. But no one moved. The camera operators kept their lenses locked in place, even though they were technically off-air. Producers stood frozen behind the glass, unsure if they should intervene or let the moment ride. The audience whispered fiercely among themselves, trying to process what they'd just seen. Ben Affleck, not deflecting, not controlled, but raw in a way the show rarely witnessed. Sunny Hostin remained very still. Her cue cards were stacked neatly, hands folded on top of them. But the tension in her shoulders betrayed her calm exterior. She had been challenged, directly, emotionally, and while she was no stranger to confrontation, this one hit differently. This wasn't political debate or ideological clash. This was personal, emotional, unpredictable. Ben sat with his elbows on the table, his fingers pressed to his forehead as if trying to hold something inside. His leg bounced beneath the table, a restless, anxious rhythm. His breathing was slow but uneven around the edges. Sarah leaned toward Joy, whispering something out of the side of her mouth. Joy shook her head, glancing at the producers as if to ask, "Are we seriously continuing this?" Whoopi, who had been quiet through most of the confrontation, finally cleared her throat. "You good?" she asked Ben, not with judgment, but with surprising gentleness. Ben looked up, startled, as though he had forgotten the others were there. He gave a tight smile, small, strained. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired." Whoopi nodded knowingly. Tired is understandable. Tired is human. Sunny listened, her expression unreadable. But something flickered across her eyes, thoughtfulness, maybe even concern. She wasn't blind to the fact that Ben wasn't playing a PR game. He wasn't spinning. He wasn't manipulating. He was unraveling, thread by thread, and the audience was watching every fiber come loose. The stage manager clipped her voice into their earpieces. Back in 30 seconds. Suddenly, the room shifted. The artificial energy of live television snapped back into place, grabbing each participant by the collar and forcing them upright. Sarah straightened in her seat. Joy sucked in a sharp breath. Whoopi stretched her neck, preparing to guide the next moment. Sunny lifted her cards again, though she didn't look at them. Ben sat back, exhaling slowly, gathering the cracked pieces of composure the way someone collects broken glass. Carefully, painfully, one shard at a time. The red light disappeared. The green light snapped on. And just like that, they were live again. The familiar theme music faded out as the applause resumed. Off rhythm, uncertain, a ripple of tension beneath the surface. Whoopi kicked things off, her voice steady but her eyes signaling caution. "We're back with Ben Affleck, who's here talking about the challenges of living in the spotlight and dealing with public scrutiny. And it's a lot." Ben gave a vague nod, somewhere between grateful and guarded. Sunny shifted slightly, her tone more measured than before. "Ben, before the break, we were talking about perception, how the public sees you versus how you see yourself. And I want to continue that conversation, but I want to do it with the understanding that no one here is trying to attack you." Ben looked at her, eyes narrowing subtly. A beat of silence hovered. "Okay," he said finally. "I can respect that." Joy jumped in quickly, trying to smooth the edges. "Look, Ben, the truth is, when people see you on camera or in photos, they assume they're seeing the whole story. But the public doesn't always understand the pressure that comes with fame." Ben gave a small laugh, genuine if bitter. "That's one way to put it." But, Sunny interjected, the public also sees patterns. And patterns raise questions. Ben stiffened. "Here we go." Sunny held her ground. "Ben, I'm asking, genuinely, do you think the repeated moments where you look unhappy or withdrawn are signs of something deeper? Or are they just unfortunate snapshots taken at the wrong time?" The audience inhaled collectively. Ben's mouth pressed into a firm line. "You want to know if I'm okay, Sunny? Is that what this is?" "You tell me," she replied quietly. He looked away, eyes unfocused. His fingers tapped the table, the same restless rhythm. Then slowly he answered, "I think people want celebrities to fit into neat little boxes. Happy, sad, falling apart, redeemed. They want a narrative that makes sense. And when someone doesn't fit that narrative, they create one for them." He turned back to Sunny. "I've been dealing with that my whole life." Sunny nodded. "And you feel misunderstood?" "Yes," he said softly. "Constantly." "Okay," she said gently. "Then help us understand." Ben hesitated. His chest rose with a deep breath, then fell. Something within him softened. "When I'm photographed looking upset," he said, "it's usually because I am upset. Maybe exhausted. Maybe stressed. Maybe I had an argument with someone I care about. Maybe I'm dealing with something nobody knows about. But that doesn't mean my life is falling apart." His voice cracked, not broken, but strained. It just means I'm human. The audience reacted, not with murmurs this time, but with an emotional hush, the kind that fills a room when truth hits harder than spectacle. Sunny studied him carefully. Then why does it seem like you're always fighting the narrative instead of shaping it? Ben blinked, caught off guard. What does that mean? You fight the press. You push back against stories. You criticize the coverage. But you rarely step forward and say, here's how I actually feel. That's not fair, Ben said, heat rising in his tone. Isn't it? Sunny asked softly. Ben placed his hands flat on the table, leaning in. If I start explaining every emotion I have to satisfy the public, that's not being honest, that's being controlled. Sunny's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. She spoke with quiet power. But you're being controlled anyway, Ben. By silence. By speculation. By the narrative you won't touch. His breath caught. Not because she was wrong, but because he had never heard it phrased that way. The audience fell into a stunned stillness, sensing they were witnessing something bigger than an interview. More like a confrontation with truth itself. Ben rubbed his jaw, his voice low. Maybe I don't talk about it because I don't know how. The confession was so soft, the microphones barely caught it. Sunny's expression changed, not sympathy but recognition. Then say that. Say that instead of letting people assume you're angry at the world. Ben looked down at his hands. For a moment, he was silent. Then, I'm angry because I'm hurt, he whispered. The audience reacted as though the air had been punched out of the room. Sunny's lips parted slightly. Joy reached for her water. Sarah blinked rapidly. Whoopi leaned forward, nodding slowly. There it is. Ben swallowed, lifting his head. I'm hurt, he repeated. Because the world treats vulnerability like weakness. And because every time I try to be honest, it gets taken out of context and twisted into something ugly. Sunny softened, truly this time. I hear you. I do. He met her gaze, searching for judgment. There was none. But then her expression shifted again, subtly, thoughtfully. But you also have to understand something, Ben. The public doesn't want you to be perfect. They want you to be real. They want to understand the person behind the headlines. He frowned. Do they? Yes, she said firmly. And sometimes, they want accountability too. The tension spiked again, quietly, dangerously. Ben's brows pulled together. Accountability for what, exactly? Sunny was calm, measured, deliberate. For how your actions affect the people around you. Ben froze. Sunny continued. When you're struggling, the people in your life feel it too. Your family, your coworkers, the people who care about you. Ben swallowed hard. I know that. Do you? She asked gently. He opened his mouth to answer, but nothing came out. Sunny leaned in. Ben, the public isn't the only one watching you. Your kids are watching. Your fans are watching. People who look up to you are watching. And when they see you overwhelmed or frustrated all the time, they worry. Ben's eyes flickered. Pain, guilt, frustration, all warring inside him. That's a lot of pressure, he said quietly. It is, Sunny agreed. But that doesn't make it less true. Ben exhaled shakily. His voice wavered. I'm doing my best. I know, she whispered. The audience sat in stunned silence, completely absorbed, hanging off every quiet exchange. Joy finally broke the pause, clearing her throat. Ben, can I ask something? He nodded slowly. You've been through a lot. Publicly. Privately. Personally. What's the one thing you wish people would understand about you that they always get wrong? He blinked rapidly, thinking. Then answered. That I'm not broken. The weight of that sentence landed like a stone in water, rippling outward, echoing through the room. I'm not broken, Ben repeated. I have bad days. I make mistakes. I fall apart sometimes. But that doesn't mean I'm broken. It means I'm alive. Sunny's expression softened fully now. No debate, no challenge, no edge. Thank you, she whispered, for saying that. But Ben wasn't finished. And I'm tired of everyone acting like I'm an object to be analyzed instead of a person trying to figure things out. Sunny nodded. That's fair. Is it? Ben asked, a hint of a bitter smile. Because it doesn't feel fair. Sunny hesitated. Maybe it's not, but it's the world we live in. Ben leaned back, eyes exhausted. Then maybe the world needs to change. The audience erupted into applause, genuine, powerful, emotional. Ben looked surprised by it, almost relieved. But then Sunny spoke again, very carefully. Ben, I want to ask one last question before we move on. His posture stiffened again. Okay. She took a breath. Are you happy? The studio froze. Ben didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. The question hung in the air like a blade. Sharp. Direct. Unavoidable. His jaw tightened. His brow furrowed. His chest rose with a long, slow inhale. And his eyes, dark, exhausted, wounded, fixed on Sunny with a look so raw the audience felt it in their bones. "I don't know," he said. The silence that followed was thunderous. He didn't smile. Didn't apologize. Didn't try to soften the truth. "I don't know if I'm happy," he repeated, quieter this time. "But I'm trying." Sunny's voice cracked just slightly. That's all anyone can ask. And in that moment, amid the lights, the murmurs, the cameras capturing every tiny shift, Ben Affleck looked less like a celebrity under fire and more like a man standing at the edge of his truth, unsure of what waited on the other side. The audience didn't clap this time. They didn't breathe. They simply watched. Because something electric was building again, something deeper, something more explosive. And none of them had any idea how far it would go. The air in the studio felt different now, denser, heavier, as though something unseen had descended over the room and settled onto every shoulder. What had begun as a tense interview had shifted into something far more intimate and far more volatile. The audience sensed it. The host sensed it. Even Ben Affleck, sitting in the center of it all, seemed unsure of where the emotional tremors beneath him would lead. He rubbed his thumb against the edge of the table, grounding himself with the tiny, repetitive motion. His eyes were distant, but alive with something flickering beneath the surface. Fear, maybe. Or maybe relief. It was hard to tell. Sunny Hostin watched him closely, but not with the same energy as before. Her posture had softened. The sharp edges she brought into the interview had dulled, replaced by something more cautious. She wasn't confronting him anymore. Not exactly. She was observing, calculating, because she sensed the ground had shifted under both of them. But that shift carried danger too. Because vulnerability, once exposed, often invites the sharpest blows. And the studio producers were hungry. In the control room, voices whispered urgently. "Keep going, he's opening up. Don't let it get dull. Push the conversation. This is the moment we've been waiting for." The line between journalism and spectacle blurred, as it often did in moments like this. But out on the stage, the humans inside the storm were the ones who would feel the impact most. Joy decided to step in again, cautious, careful, her tone lifting like a tentative bridge to safer territory. "Ben," she began gently, "I think a lot of people watching right now relate more than they'd admit. Everyone struggles. Everyone questions themselves. You're just doing it with the world watching." He gave a small, grateful nod. But Sarah's eyes darted towards Sunny, then Ben, then back to the audience. She could feel the energy teetering, too fragile, too raw. "I just think," Sarah said softly, "it takes courage to admit when you're not sure how you feel. That's not something people expect from celebrities." Ben lifted his gaze. "Maybe they should." Whoopi chuckled under her breath, a grounded, warm sound. "People expect too damn much. That's the problem." The audience laughed lightly, relief laughter, the kind people cling to when the air feels too heavy. But Sunny wasn't done. Not yet. She picked up her cards, flipping to a new one. Her eyes flickered across the words printed there. Questions pre-approved by the producers. But she didn't need to read them aloud. She knew them by heart. And she knew which one would cut through the fog like a blade. "Ben," she said slowly, "there's something else the public talks about. Something they're confused by." He stiffened immediately. "Okay, it's the moments where you seem irritated or disconnected in public. People take those as signs that you're unhappy, not with life, but with the people around you." He flinched. Sunny continued. "How do you respond to that?" Ben leaned back, eyes narrowing just slightly. "You mean the photos? The clips? The short videos taken out of context?" "Yes," Sunny said. "Those." His jaw flexed. "I'm tired of those moments defining me." "Then redefine them," she replied. He scoffed quietly. "You say that like it's easy." "It's not," Sunny admitted. "But if you don't tell your side, people will tell it for you." A beat. Then Ben asked, voice low, "Why does everyone feel entitled to my side of anything?" Sunny blinked. Joy and Sarah exchanged concerned glances. Whoopi breathed out hard through her nose. And the audience leaned forward in utter silence. Ben broke that silence with a laugh, not amused, but disbelieving. "No one asked me how I felt when those clips went viral. No one asked what I was dealing with that day. They just made jokes. Memes. Assumptions." "Ben," Sunny began. He cut her off again, but this time the tone was different. Not sharp, not angry, but exhausted to the bone. You all see pieces of me. Tiny pieces. And then the world builds a whole person out of those fragments, and it's not me. Not even close. Sunny's voice softened but stayed steady. Then tell us who you are. Why? He asked. So people can judge me for that too? The words hung in the air like fog. Then, suddenly, unexpectedly, Ben stood up. The audience gasped. Joy's eyes widened. Sarah froze. Whoopi started to raise her hand, as if to ask him to stay seated. Sunny didn't move. Her gaze locked on Ben with a mixture of surprise and something almost resembling worry. Ben ran a hand through his hair, pacing behind his chair. He wasn't leaving. He wasn't storming off. But he was unraveling, visibly, palpably. I don't understand people, he said, voice rising, cracking, stumbling. I don't understand why they want celebrities to be these perfect, smiling mannequins. Why can't I look tired? Why can't I look upset? Why can't I have a bad day without it being a headline? Sunny finally spoke. Because you're famous. That's the reality. He spun toward her. It shouldn't be. But it is, she said quietly but firmly. His chest rose and fell rapidly, too rapidly. Ben, Whoopi said calmly, take a breath, baby. But his voice only got louder. No, because I'm tired of being told to just accept it. I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of carrying everyone else's expectations like a weight around my neck. I can't. He stopped mid-sentence, swallowing hard. The audience sat stunned, witnessing a man pushed to his emotional limit on live television. Sunny lowered her cards. Ben, nobody wants you to break. He stared at her, eyes glassy. Don't they? No, she said firmly. They want to understand you. Then why? He asked, voice barely holding steady. Does it always feel like they want me to fall apart? The question was a gut punch. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, as if unsure whether they should keep rolling. A producer whispered urgently through the host's earpieces. Keep going. Do not cut to break. But Sunny didn't listen to the voice in her ear. She leaned forward, her tone dropping to something far more personal. Ben, look at me. He hesitated. Then he did. His eyes, exhausted, wounded, hollow, met hers. This isn't the public talking to you right now, she said softly. It's me, right here, asking a human being what he needs to feel okay again. Ben blinked, startled by the gentleness. A muscle in his jaw twitched. I don't know. She nodded. That's okay. He swallowed hard. I don't think I've known for a long time. Something broke in Sunny's expression. A crack in her composure. A softness she rarely revealed on camera. Ben, she whispered, you're not alone. He shut his eyes, inhaling sharply, as if the words hurt more than they soothed. Joy reached across the table, placing her hand close to his but not touching. A silent gesture. You're safe here. Sarah exhaled shakily, visibly moved. Even Whoopi cleared her throat, suddenly blinking faster than usual. The audience watched, transfixed. You could hear breaths hitching. You could feel hearts tightening. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was an unraveling. A revelation. A moment so raw that the entire studio seemed suspended inside it. Ben sat back down slowly, lowering himself into the chair like someone returning from the edge of a precipice. His voice, when it came, was barely audible. I'm scared. Sunny's breath caught. What are you scared of? She asked. He hesitated. Then he said, that one day, the world will stop seeing me as a person at all. The studio fell into a silence so complete it felt sacred. Sunny whispered, Ben, that won't happen. But he didn't respond. He stared down at his hands, hands that had trembled moments earlier. Hands that were still shaking slightly. Sunny looked at him, and something in her changed. She set her cue cards aside entirely, pushing them to the far end of the table. Forget the questions, she said. Let's talk. Just you and me. Ben looked up, startled. But before he could answer, a new voice sliced through the studio like a blade. Sunny, ask him the question about his marriage. Every head turned toward the control booth. A producer stood there with his headset pressed tight, frustration etched across his face. He hadn't meant for the mic to pick it up. But he did. And the entire studio heard it. The audience gasped. Loudly. Ben went still. Sunny's face drained. Whoopi muttered, Oh, hell no. Sarah whispered, Did he just? Joy shook her head in disbelief. We are not doing that. But the damage had already been done. Ben's expression darkened, slowly, visibly, like a storm cloud forming in real time. He turned toward Sunny. Is that why I'm here? He asked, voice dangerously soft. To talk about my marriage? Sunny shook her head immediately. Ben, no. That wasn't me. Doesn't matter, he said. He's your producer. Sunny's voice tightened with panic. Ben, listen to me. I wasn't going to ask that. But he wasn't hearing her anymore. His breathing grew shallow again. His jaw locked, and his voice, low, shaking with anger and betrayal, cut through the air. I came here in good faith. I opened up. I told you the truth. And this is what you wanted the whole time. Ben, please, Sunny pleaded. I didn't. He slammed his hand on the table. Not hard, not violent, but harsh enough to make the microphones jump. The audience flinched. Joy gasped. Sarah covered her mouth. Whoopi stood up halfway, ready to intervene. Ben's voice rose, not shouting, but shaking with fury he could no longer contain. You're no better than the tabloids. Sunny froze, hurt flashing across her face. Ben, you pretend to care, he snapped, but it's all just a setup. A trap. Drama for ratings. Sunny's eyes glistened, but she held her ground. That's not fair, she said, voice breaking. No, Ben asked sharply. Because it feels pretty damn accurate. The audience erupted into anxious murmurs, confusion, shock, disbelief all blending together. Sunny inhaled shakily, steadying herself. Ben, I swear to you, on my life, I was not going to ask about your marriage. I respect you too much for that. He stared at her, eyes blazing, wounded, distrustful. And then, with chilling calm, he said, I don't believe you. The reaction was instant. The audience gasped. Sunny recoiled as if struck. The hosts froze. The emotional earthquake that had been building all hour finally cracked open. And the shockwave was only beginning. Silence swallowed the studio whole. Not the kind of silence that follows drama on television. Not the kind that comes with suspense. This was a living, breathing silence, sharp, trembling, electric, the kind that made every person in the room hyper-aware of their own heartbeat. Sunny Hostin sat perfectly still, her eyes fixed on Ben Affleck, shock rippling through her expression. Not anger. Not defensiveness. Something deeper. Something that stunned even her. Hurt. Ben's words echoed through the room like the aftershock of a falling monument. I don't believe you. Sunny swallowed hard. Her throat tightened around the unspoken response she wanted to give, but couldn't yet find the breath to form. Joy leaned back in her chair, hand pressed to her chest. Sarah's eyes darted between them, stunned, terrified that one more spark would ignite something irreversible. And Whoopi Goldberg, steady, grounded Whoopi, stood all the way up, bracing herself like she'd just witnessed the beginning of a firestorm. The audience didn't dare even whisper now. They watched with eyes wide and unblinking, afraid any sound might shatter whatever was left of the fragile moment. Sunny exhaled slowly. Ben, please let me explain. But the damage inside Ben had already split into fractures. Fractures layered with exhaustion, frustration, betrayal, and an unexpected vulnerability he had dared to expose only minutes earlier, now feeling painfully exploited. His voice trembled with controlled fury. Explain what? That this was all a setup? That you wanted me emotional so you could dig deeper? No, Sunny said firmly. Absolutely not. Ben, look at me. He did. But his stare was colder now, the warmth from earlier gone. Sunny continued, voice steady but thick with emotion. I didn't know he would say that. I didn't know he wanted that question asked. I had no intention, none, to go there. Ben clenched his jaw so tightly the muscle twitched. You expect me to believe that? Yes, Sunny whispered. Because it's the truth. Joy gently raised her hand, stepping into the tension like someone approaching a wounded animal. Ben, you've been honest with us. Let us be honest with you. Sunny isn't lying. Sarah nodded, voice soft. We all heard the producer. That wasn't her. But Ben shook his head, as if trying to dislodge the entire moment from his memory. It doesn't matter. It never matters. Everywhere I go, someone wants something from me. Vulnerability isn't safe. It's ammunition. Sunny flinched. Not because his words were cruel, but because they were painfully honest. Painfully familiar. Ben, she said, leaning forward, her voice barely above a whisper. You're right that vulnerability is dangerous. But it's also the only thing that connects us. What you shared here today, that was brave. He didn't respond. She continued, her voice tightening with sincerity. And what that producer said, that was out of line. That was wrong. And I'm sorry you had to hear it. I'm sorry it fed your fears. I'm sorry it hurt you. Ben's eyes flickered. For the first time since the eruption, the fire in them dimmed. Only slightly. Sunny took a breath and added, but don't punish me for someone else's intentions. The audience let out a soft murmur, not shock, but empathy. Ben stared at her, conflict swirling inside him, shifting like storm clouds struggling between lightning and rain. Then why didn't you push back? He asked. Sunny blinked. Ben, I didn't even hear him until after you reacted. My earpiece cut out. I had no idea. Ben froze. For several seconds, he didn't move, didn't breathe. Finally, very quietly, he whispered, Your earpiece wasn't working? Sunny shook her head. It clicked in right after you stood up. Before that, I only saw your face change, and I didn't understand why. Ben looked away, pressing his fingers to his forehead again. His posture sagged, the anger dissolving as fast as it had ignited, like a man realizing he'd been swinging at the wrong target. The audience watched him with a heartbreaking mixture of sympathy and relief. Whoopi leaned forward, her voice warm but firm. Ben, baby, none of us wanted this to go that direction. Not one of us. He inhaled shakily. I thought. Sunny spoke softly. You thought we betrayed you. He nodded once, small, ashamed, honest. Sunny's eyes softened to something he had not expected, compassion. Real compassion. The kind that reached past professionalism and into something deeply human. Ben, she said slowly, you're carrying so much. Anyone can see that. And when people carry that much pain, they get triggered easily. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. His breath hitched slightly. Sunny continued. But please understand something. Your pain is not your fault. Your reaction is not your fault. But I need you to hear me when I say, I never intended to hurt you. A long, thick silence hung between them. Then Ben nodded, barely, but enough to shift the room. I'm sorry, he whispered. Sunny's eyes softened. Thank you. And I'm sorry too. The audience let out a breath none of them realized they were holding. Some even clapped softly, as though afraid too much noise would break the fragile reconnection forming on stage. Joy dabbed her eyes. Sarah exhaled openly. Whoopi dropped back into her seat, muttering, Thank God, under her breath. But the emotional storm was far from over. Sunny glanced down at her discarded cards. Then she pushed them even farther away, symbolic, intentional. Let's put that behind us, she said. Let's finish this conversation the right way. Ben nodded slowly, still processing, still trembling slightly from the crash of adrenaline. Sunny leaned forward again. I want to ask you something real. No producers. No cards. Just a person talking to another person. Ben hesitated. Okay, what do you want people to feel when they see you? He froze. Not because the question was invasive, but because it was one he had clearly never asked himself. His voice trembled as he answered. I want them to see that I'm trying. Sunny nodded. Trying to be what? Ben's eyes glistened. Better. Happier. Kinder. Calmer. A better father. A better friend. A better partner. I'm trying to be more than what people think I am. Sunny whispered, You are. He closed his eyes. A single tear, one he tried desperately to blink away, slid down his cheek. The audience didn't gasp, didn't react with shock. Instead, they felt it. Every emotion. Every crack. Every unspoken confession. Sunny's voice softened even further. Ben, you don't have to prove yourself every moment of every day. You don't have to fight the whole world alone. He wiped his cheek quickly, embarrassed. It just feels like I do. Well, Whoopi said suddenly, her tone warm and steady. Maybe it's time to stop feeling like you're alone. Ben looked at her. She nodded. You're surrounded by people who get it. People who mess up. People who cry in their cars before work. People who walk onto this set after nights of no sleep. You're not special, baby. You're one of us. The audience laughed, a warm, loving laugh that broke the last bit of tension. Ben let out a small, shaky laugh too. And that was the moment the walls finally crumbled, quietly, peacefully. Sunny smiled gently. Ben, thank you for trusting us today. Even when things got messy. He nodded. Thank you for not giving up on me. We wouldn't, she said. And neither should you. Joy clasped her hands. Well, I think we've had one of the realest interviews we've ever had. Sarah wiped her eyes. Honestly, maybe the most human moment in the history of this show. Whoopi pointed at the camera. And let this be a reminder. Celebrities are people. People with feelings. People with battles. People with bad days. So be kind. Ben laughed softly, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, please be kind. The audience applauded, loud, emotional applause that filled the entire studio with warmth instead of tension. Sunny turned to Ben one last time. Anything else you want to say? He nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, he said. I just want people to understand that I'm doing my best, that I'm human, and that if I've hurt anyone by being distant or frustrated, I'm sorry. I'm working on it. A wave of applause crashed over the studio again. Sunny smiled, sincere, warm, relieved. Thank you, Ben. The cameras zoomed out as the segment reached its end, the hosts leaning closer, the energy shifting from confrontation to fragile, beautiful reconciliation. But the real shock came afterward, because when the segment ended and the studio lights dimmed, the audience, normally ushered out quickly, stayed frozen in their seats. Overwhelmed, silent, many wiping tears, others clapping softly, unwilling to leave the emotional gravity of what they'd just witnessed. And within minutes of the show airing, social media exploded. Clips trending, millions of views, thousands of posts, some shocked, some moved, some furious at the producer's interference. Many praising Ben for his vulnerability. Many praising Sunny for her empathy. Hashtags formed instantly. Hashtag Ben Affleck the View. Hashtag support Ben Affleck. Hashtag Sunny Hostin respect. Hashtag vulnerability is strength. Journalists wrote about the emotional collapse. Fans posted supportive messages. Critics called it the most raw interview in daytime TV in years. But one thing united them all. Everyone was talking, debating, feeling, and the world saw something it rarely sees on television anymore. A real human moment. A moment where two people, adversaries for a heartbeat, reached across anger and misunderstanding to reveal something startling and beautiful. Their humanity. The segment would be remembered for years, debated for months, clipped, analyzed, quoted everywhere. But for now, in this story, it comes down to you. Because now you've seen it. You've felt it. You've lived inside this moment with them. So now, what about you? What did you think about this confrontation? Who was right? Who was wrong? Was Ben justified? Was Sunny fair? Did the producer cross the line? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear them. And if you want more dramatic, explosive, cinematic breakdowns and storytelling moments like this, make sure you subscribe to Stage View right now. Because trust me, this story is only one of many we have coming your way. Stay tuned, stay curious, and stay watching. Stage View out.